It's 2 a.m. somewhere above the Arctic Circle, and a man is standing in a steel wheelhouse staring at a sonar screen. Outside, the Barents Sea is pitch black. The air temperature is -15. Waves are slamming into the hull every few seconds, and this guy is calm because he's done this 1,000 times. He's captain of one of the biggest factory trawlers in Norway, and over the next few weeks, his crew of 34 men will haul up enough Atlantic cod to fill a cargo hold worth $5 million. But here's what makes this job different from almost any other fishing operation on Earth. They don't just catch the fish, they run an entire processing factory on board right there in the middle of the Arctic Ocean. And the only way it works is if every person on the ship does their job in freezing conditions, on almost no sleep, for weeks at a time. To understand why anyone would sign up for this, you have to understand what's at stake. Norway's cod fishery is one of the most valuable wild fisheries on the planet. In 2025, Norwegian cod prices climbed past $9,000 a ton. That's nearly double what they were just a couple years earlier. Quotas keep getting cut to protect the stock, so the fish that do come out of the water are worth more than ever. These aren't small boats chasing a few hundred pounds of fish. Norway's modern factory trawlers are over 80 meters long. They carry automated filleting machines, plate freezers, fish meal plants. One vessel, the Granite, displaces over 4,000 gross tons and carries enough fuel to stay at sea for weeks without docking. She tows 2 trawl nets at once through water that runs 200 meters deep, dragging them along the seafloor where the cod feed on capelin and krill. When the nets come up, that's when the real work starts, and it never really stops. A typical trawl gets hauled in after a few hours of dragging. The cod end of the net, the big bag at the back, comes up over the stern ramp bulging with fish. Tens of thousands of pounds in a single haul. The fish spill onto the deck, eyes bulging from the pressure change, mouths gasping. Crew members in rubber overalls sort through them fast. Anything undersized goes back. Anything that's not cod, any bycatch, gets recorded and dealt with according to some of the strictest fishing regulations in the world. Then the fish move inside to the factory deck. This is the part nobody pictures when they think about fishing. Below deck, it looks more like a food processing plant than a boat. The fish get headed by machine, filleted by machine, skinned by machine. Workers stand at stainless steel stations, trimming and grading fillets by hand, tossing them onto conveyor belts that feed into horizontal plate freezers. Within 3 hours of coming out of the water, those fillets are frozen solid at -18 degrees Celsius, locked into blocks, and stacked in the cargo hold. Nothing goes to waste. The heads ship to Nigeria. The offal becomes fish meal and fish oil. The tongues go to Oslo. The crew works in shifts of 12. 6 hours on, 6 hours off, around the clock. But that schedule is generous compared to what actually happens. When the nets are coming up heavy and the factory floor is backed up, nobody's watching the clock. Sleep gets cut to 4 hours, sometimes 3, broken into chunks. The trawler crew's sleep study data is grim. Researchers who've measured sleep patterns on these vessels found that trawler crews average some of the worst sleep of any fishing fleet, splitting their rest into multiple short blocks that never let the body fully recover. And all of this happens on a ship that's constantly moving. The Barents Sea sits at the top of Europe, where warm Atlantic currents collide with Arctic water. In winter, polar lows can develop out of nowhere. These compact storm systems spin up in hours and hit with winds that border on hurricane force. The ship rolls, the deck ices over, and the crew keeps working because the fish in the net don't wait for the weather to improve. If you're into deep dives on how industries like this actually work behind the scenes, subscribe. We cover stuff like this regularly. So why do they do it? The money is part of it. Norwegian deep-sea fishermen earn well, and on factory trawlers, crew pay is often tied to the value of the catch. When cod is pushing record prices, a good trip means a serious payday. But talk to anyone who spent 20 years on these boats, and money is only part of the answer. Fishing families in western Norway have been doing this for generations. The Granite's crew comes mostly from communities around Bekkjarvik, a village on the island of Austevoll, where fishing isn't just a job. It's the entire identity of the place. Fifth-generation fishermen work alongside their fathers and uncles on the same grounds their great-grandfathers fished. There's also something else at play. Norway manages its cod stock in a way that almost nobody else has managed to pull off. The country works with Russia through a joint fisheries commission that sets annual catch limits based on scientific stock assessments. Mesh sizes are regulated. Bycatch rules are enforced. Some companies voluntarily use larger mesh than required, specifically to let smaller fish escape and grow. This matters because the rest of the world hasn't exactly nailed this. Canada's Grand Banks cod fishery collapsed in the early 1990s and still hasn't recovered decades later. Cod populations off New England are at near record lows, but in the Barents Sea, the stock remains healthy. Processing plants onshore in northern Norway land 15,000 to 20,000 pounds of cod per day during peak season. The system works precisely because of the strict limits that make every trip harder and every fish more expensive. That's the tension at the heart of this whole operation. The quotas keep shrinking. Norway's 2025 cod allocation was the lowest since 1991. Prices keep climbing. And the crews keep heading out into the dark, into the cold, to work a job that most people couldn't last a single shift doing. By the time the trawler steams back into port after a few weeks at sea, the cargo hold is packed with frozen blocks of fillet stacked floor to ceiling. That fish ships to 47 countries. It ends up in fish and chips in London, bacalhau in Lisbon, processed fillets in supermarkets across Asia. Every block traced back to a specific haul, a specific net, a specific night on the Barents Sea when a crew of 34 men worked through the dark to pull it up. There's another one on screen if you're not done yet.